All right, so we're going to talk about climate. So climate versus weather. So climate is the average year-to-year conditions of temperature and precipitation in a particular region. So we want to think of climate as a long-term kind of view, whereas weather is day to day. So we have like a weather forecast, but we don't. So weather's kind of short term. We don't have a climate forecast because here in Southern California it's usually dryish, fairly warm. So that's our climate. It's in a general kind of over the course of the year type statement, whereas weather is just what is it going to look like tomorrow or the day after. And so it's one thing we notice is that as we get to the equator, it gets warmer. And so the question is, why is the equator warmer than the poles? And it has to do with how the sun, energy from the sun hits the earth. So energy from the sun that hits around the equator hits directly. So you can see it's kind of a direct hit, whereas at the poles, it almost like it bounces off. And so there's more energy that's absorbed at the equator from the sun. Why? Because it's direct, whereas there's less energy absorbed because it's indirect hit here. And so that's why the climate around the equators are warmer than the climate at the poles. Our climate's also affected by the greenhouse effect. So the greenhouse effect is trapping of heat and energy to maintain the Earth's temperature by gases in the atmosphere, and specifically they're called greenhouse gases, so like carbon dioxide and methane. And so what happens is the sun's radiation hits the Earth, and then it wants to bounce off. And what happens is we have greenhouse gases in the upper atmosphere, and that keeps some of the heat in. However, what happens in climate change is if you start producing a lot of greenhouse gases, it traps more and more heat, and so therefore the overall climate or the Earth's oceans start to heat up, and so that can lead to like climate change, where areas they start experiencing different climates. Lastly, in this section, we're going to talk about the difference between a habitat and a niche. So a habitat is specifically where an individual lives. So here you can see that like all these birds, warblers, they live in the same habitat, but they all have different niches. So they have different roles, and that could be they have different jobs within that habitat. Here we can see there's different types of wading birds, so birds that live in shallow water, but they all have maybe different beaks or something like that, where they eat different things, and so therefore they would have different jobs or different niches within this part here. Okay.